Hello and welcome to another episode of I Mustache You Something. So this is a special Perry Thanksgiving edition. Uh, I think we already posted the one for today. We're recording on Monday the 24th. Thanksgiving is this Thursday. We all have lots to be thankful for, and this will be posting the Monday after Thanksgiving, 2025 for those of you watching years from now, going into the archives of the Mustachio legends that were created here in this Mustachio studio. So Mitch today is driving. Hi, Mitch.
Hi.
So we'll do our best to keep it tame and not bring up his Pope saying the creed properly for once. Right, Sharif?
Not the first one.
Mitch, did you hear about this? Sharif was telling us before you hopped on that the Catholic Pope, like the real Pope, not our fake Pope, um, said the creed without the filioque.
Yeah, I heard about that.
What did you think about that?
I think if that's the hang up, so honestly, I'm not like emotionally attached to Folkway. So, like, I think that if we're gonna call it doctrine, the Pope should do it the correct way every single time. But if we're gonna like be willing to bend on that, then yeah, good. Let's start sneaking it in here and there.
So I'll recap real quick. The last episode that we posted on the 17th is one of the best mustache episodes of all time, where we were talking about, I think, more trivial things than the Filliquay, right? Like the Filliquay was like a big thing and people are like really mad about it and it's like, "Oh yeah, they have this weird thing and you know it's unnecessarily divisive." To the point where, Sharif and I both got a text yesterday from somebody that was like, trying to research it and saying like, "Oh, like, what is the correct thing?" And, in, my standard fashion, I sent him a 300-page book to read.
And 40 page to read.
Yeah, I mean it was a really good book and it was recommended to me by Abuna Dan Habib, and that's actually an Abuna Dan move that I adapted from him, which like somebody asks you like a really complicated question that they think is going to get answered over text message and you give them you know summer reading to do. And I think what we got to on the 17th episode is that, yeah, we have to be really careful about what rules we're willing to bend, what rules we're willing to break, and understanding the consequences of those things. And, I'm overjoyed that Mitch has this newfound flexibility that
I don't actually, but I do. But like, if like that's obviously I was tongue in cheeks, but I'm not attached to the filioque. However, the rules are the rules, and I'll follow the fucking rules. Excuse my language, man.
We can't
Okay.
lose this to Sunday
Um,
school.
Leave it to the Catholic to
I
break
know, right?
the
Like
F word.
you're okay. I
Leave
guess
it
we
to
have to
the
decide if
leave
I'm
it
gonna
to
have to
the
go back and figure
You
out
know,
how to
I
beep
was in
something.
construction meeting calls all day. It slipped out. I
You
apologize.
curse at
Um,
work?
oh, dude, are you kidding? I work in construction for one of the largest companies in the world. Yeah, I curse all the time.
Okay.
I
So
work for a very small company and I curse all the time, so don't feel
you
don't
you
feel
also
so
really
bad. Don't feel so bad.
really?
Well, and you're an orthopedic
I don't
surgeon,
feel
so
bad at
don't tell
all.
me
I
that you're
don't feel
not
bad at all.
cursing.
I'm not cursing. Well,
Only at the nurses
no, no, but
And the
like
patients, maybe.
and the patients
All
of
no,
right,
the
I
no.
apologize.
and the patients to the nurses.
Listen, I think the ratio of cursing in your head to out loud needs to be high enough that it's understandable, right? Like if you're able to like if the filter is very, 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 very fine, uh, and it's just the volume of the amount of cursing that you want to do and the amount that actually comes out. That I think is at least the excuse that I make.
I curse biblical curses, son of vipers.
I thought it was brood of vipers.
Brutal, something like that.
It loses something in
Brutal
translation, I
viper.
guess.
Mitch Mitch says effing brood of vipers.
Yeah, man.
Favorite brutal viper.
So I think we settled last time on, yeah, no, the rules matter. You don't need to throw expletives in there just because you have a poor
No,
vocabulary. The rules matter. And I think what we're really hoping for is to figure out, okay, what are we doing to clarify how not to be rigid in the following of the rules and also not to be loosey-goosey in the not following of the rules and finding that middle balance. And then we continued on with the episode that posted today, the 24th, which is talking about us and them and trying to figure out like, okay, who's the us, who's the them, how do we draw those lines around, who we identify as parts of ourselves. And I was hoping to mustache you all today uh, how you've been reflecting on those last two conversations as an open-ended question, and then I have some specific questions. Has it been on your mind, or are you guys just overly concerned with the Pope and what he's saying or not saying?
we focus a lot on the Catholic Pope. Um, the world does. So I've been thinking about the strictness. Like, I wrote, re-listened to it, and then Ralph had an interesting point about legalism, and I thought that was like a very solid point, and I've been thinking about. And I still stand by like follow the rules, but you should be able to like take the more Mina approach of question everything, but act as the rules stand until they change. Um, which how do you like? Yeah, that so that you're basically you're able, but then you're able to like to make change of those rules from good faith because you're following them. You're not just like a radical, but you can make better decisions that way. Something I've been thinking about.
Yeah, I think sort of the true Christian way of dealing with rules is you're very strict on the rules and very gracious and merciful to the person who's broken the rules. So I think, like you don't compromise on, let's say sexual ethics or, abortion. But then the person who's either, caught up in those things is shown grace and mercy without the rigidness of the sword of the commandments, but you still don't negotiate off the commandments. So the commandments are pretty clear, the rules are pretty clear, but the person who is struggling, like we all are, is shown compassion. Jesus said, "I require compassion, not sacrifice." So I think that's sort of the did I am I on am I talking about something different or am I talking about what we're all talking about?
Mitch?
No, you are talking about what we are talking about.
Okay. Yeah. That's how I see it. In my own pastoral existence, as limited as it is. I'm not as I'm not as I'm not like Sharif who, wields the black dress and the cross himself, invisibly. But I do, when you have that, that person who needs, who needs guidance and you help guide them to hopefully the person who can help them better. Um, they require compassion and grace.
I've always looked at it as it it doesn't make it less true for me not to be able to do it. Right? Like for me to say like, oh, like it is good to exercise regularly and, you know, eat carbs in moderation and, all this stuff. And it's like, I can say that as a doctor to my patients, right? And I can tell them like being consistent with your exercise program, blah, 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 blah. All this stuff is true. Now, at the same time, I can be very clear that it's hard for me, it's hard for them, it's hard for everyone, right? And what we like to do is negotiate one of two directions. One to say, oh, like you're an awful person for not doing it, which is not true, or negotiate, oh, it's not that big of a deal, which is also not true,
Mhm.
right? So we don't want to use the, code for judging people, which we like, which is like, oh, love the sinner, but hate the sin, right? And what we really mean is like, hate everybody that doesn't do things as good as me. And it's a soft dance that I think we have to be able to do by first recognizing, like Ralph said, like I'm the first one that's not really doing things the way that I'm supposed to do. And if I'm going to be tough on anyone, if I'm going to be strict on anyone, I'm going to start with myself. And if I'm strict with myself, then I can maybe go to someone else who I'm responsible for, not just some like random person on the internet that I decide like I'm going to go after this person, but like somebody that is coming to me and I have a relationship with. I can tell them like, listen, I'm not being strict because I'm trying to be difficult here, but there's some consequences to what it is that you're doing to yourself here. And I wish I could, live my life, and I wish I could let you live your life without any consequences. That's just not the reality that we're in. And I think, Mitch, that's kind of where the discernment is of these consequences, where if I can follow a rule and really has nothing like positive or negative for me, then fine, let it be. But if following the rule is going to be problematic, then no, I shouldn't follow the rule, right? And if something needs a little bit of refinement, then we need to treat that as uh, like for example, like we I'll bring up another controversial thing from the news recently, like this announcement that there's going to be deaconesses, and then all of a sudden it turned into like a five-alarm fire, right? And the quote said something along the lines of, "We'll consider the matter to have never happened." And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, A,
It's
it
void.
happened. B, it should have happened. C, it's long overdue. And D, like, let's at least, discuss this. And there's a previous Mustache episode on, the role of women in the church, and they're already functioning as chanters and readers, right? They're already singing, they're already teaching. So let's recognize that role that they have instead of like pretending like, oh no, that's just for the boys. It's not just a liturgical thing, it's a pastoral thing. And it's not just, for the altar, it's for the entire church that these roles are defined. So yeah, I think that what 100% needs to be questioned. Um, in my
So you dropped a bomb, and for those who they don't know what's going on, a bishop of Montreal, a very nice guy, he appointed some girls to be chanters or to be part of the church choir, but in an attire similar to the deacons. Then another bishop from Upper Egypt didn't like that, clearly breaking all administrative, synodical, pastoral rule and intervening in another bishop diocese in a very aggressive way. And
Which is worse?
which is
Which is no,
which is
that's a question. Which is worse?
oh, the second one.
The second one, right? Yeah.
Second one.
Actually,
And
the first one isn't bad. It's
Well, no
it's
matter what you
long
think about,
overdue.
well,
Let-
no matter what you think, taking a neutral position on the first, the second has to be really, I mean, the second should have been judged more severely. Like, mind your own business, bro. Like, what's happening?
yeah, so with all due respect to the second bishop, he is intervening in many dioceses, including the
And how much
patriarchal
respect is due to
diocese,
that bishop?
Alexandria. Hmm?
How much respect is due to that bishop? You said with all due respect. How much are you doing him?
He he's destroying the church, but he's still my brother and my father.
There you go. There's
But he's destroying the church in a way. So And he's been intervening in even the patriarchal dioceses in Cairo and Alexandria, in the land of immigration, as if he's the only one who can understand anything. Anyway, the problem comes here from the lack of discernment of the first bishop, who I love and I like, who came out like defending himself in a very childish way. And that's what created the whole chaos, and that's what created the consider it as if it was not done. If he kept silent, if he prayed, if he had discernment, him and his clergy, I think can be much in a much better situation rather than the administrative chaos that we are living now nowadays.
Can I ask a question? Who apologized? The Montreal bishop, the Upper Egypt bishop?
So the Montreal bishop apologized that he kind of did it inside of the liturgy, not something like that, some technical nonsense like that. But then he started to say, no, I should not lean to more pressure. I'm a bishop. I have the Holy Spirit. He should not intervene in in my opinion, a teenager way, not a childish way. And then this was
You mean "Come on,
recorded.
boy"? "Come on, boy" is not
Come on,
a
boy.
is
Come
not a
on, boy.
liturgical. It's not a liturgical. Whatever. What you know what I'm saying? It's not
Yeah,
liturgical. "Come on, boy."
it's not liturgical and not fitting the position. So he lost his ground, technically, with
Yeah,
all
it
love
definitely
to
shows
him.
you where the power lies, right? Like
Hmm?
the question is like, should have the other bishop done what he did? Sure, we can disagree. But the fact that he did it, got away with it, and now has stronger than he was yesterday or a week ago says a lot.
Yeah, that's an administrative chaos. That's an administrative chaos. While other metropolitan bishops who were more stronger than the Bishop of Montreal, they're doing the same thing and no one can touch them.
You mean Metropolitan Serabion? Is that who you mean?
Yeah, exactly. So, and again, it's not us as laymen intervening in clergy issues. It's about pastoral care. I have a daughter. I'm serving deaconess in hymn class. I'm serving girls, teenagers, servants, all of this. So you want to bend the rule, you need to do it in a smart way. And you need to have your backup.
And then you need to stand behind it, whatever you do.
But if you want to follow up, but through follow up with like very strict rule, okay, well and good. Maybe it's not the time now.
So
Again,
when is the time? Because I can tell you that mustache you recording with, you know, a very like clear conversation about
Mhm.
what women are doing already in the church. They're singing in the church. They are teaching in the church. Uh, as outlined by, the canons of the church. These are the responsibilities of the chanters and the deacons. This conversation was 5 years ago, and I'm saying then something in public that I've said in private for like the previous, I don't know, at least 10, if not 15, 20 years of like, I don't understand. Like you either say we don't need the women. Like, get rid of them. They're not allowed to teach. They're not allowed to sing. Like, put them aside, which at least is consistent with your policy, right? At least like you're making decisions based on your conviction, which is that they shouldn't be doing these things. Or you say, no, you're right. Like, they're invaluable. They're members of our choirs. They're, they sound beautiful when you let them sing in church and like when we have like a retreat or something and we have the boys on one side and the girls on the other side and you hear the boys singing the north side and the girls singing the south side and it's antiphonic and beautiful and the Sunday school service in any church that I've ever been to is reliant more than 50% on women, right? So let's recognize that, right? Let's institutionalize that and say, yes, this is the role of the chanter, this is the role of the reader. And it doesn't need to necessarily be even a liturgical distinction, right? It doesn't
Mhm.
like because, oh,
I,
well, they're never going to serve
well,
at the altar. Okay, fine. They don't need to serve in the altar, but like, at least recognize their role in the ecclesiastical
And,
authority of
and,
the
and
earth.
why not?
Didn't Paul solve this in First Timothy? Like women should teach women, men should teach men. Like I guess I'm confused about the issue is here. First Timothy lays this out pretty clearly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
so
cultural issue in the first century.
Yeah, it
right.
was a cultural. Yeah, Sharif is very, as usual, I'm very impressed by Sharif. Yeah, he's no, I mean it's not. I don't think it's as black and white as you have made it out to mean, Mitch. I think there were probably things going on in that local congregation that we're not privy to, and the fact that Saint Paul uh, said that when a woman prophesies, she can't prophesy without opening up her mouth. She must prophesy. And he wasn't. So, the what he says in Timothy about women not teaching is sort of then you have to look at the cultural aspects of it because elsewhere he talks about women prophesying and what is that role, if not speaking in front of a church about something that God has told them directly. So I think it's not as black and white as and again, like Mina said, it doesn't have to include, you know, the priesthood. It doesn't have, we don't have to have that discussion. We can all agree for some reason or another. God chose 12 male apostles. We don't know why, but for
Right.
some reason or another, he chose those 12 males, and that's what we have.
And you
So
don't need to touch that. Like you don't even
and
need
you
to ask
don't
that
need to
question,
touch that,
right?
even though Callistus Ware touched it, and in the last few years of his life, changed his position on women in the priesthood. So and so did what's his name? What's the other one? Father Hopko. Was it Hopko?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know
He,
if he
Not
did, but
aware.
Father
no, he
Thomas
changed
Thomas.
his position from what I remember. He changed his position as well, or at least sort of softened it a bit. But
Mhm.
if we don't want to soften that position, we don't have to then you know bring it all the way down from okay, no priests, no deacons, no singers, no just stay
Yeah.
silent and breastfeed your children is sort of ridiculous as well.
Oh,
There
I
has to
remember
be
the other thing that I really can't stand. Because I was like, there's something else that really gets under my skin. One was this is the way that we've always done it. The other one I just remembered is the slippery slope argument, right?
Yep.
Where
That's the whole argument.
right? Where you're like, no, 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 no. We're not capable of thinking things through. We're not capable of making a commitment. We're not capable of nuance. We're not capable of dialectic where, we take, a good idea and another good idea and we put them together to find a balance. No, 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 no. We like extremism, right? Like we want to make sure we're at this far end of being as conservative as humanly possible or as who cares? Whatever, right? Because those two extremes are very, very easy. And once we find something where it's like, no, let's shift towards the center, right? Let's not be so extremist. Let's be a little bit organized and it doesn't need to be chaos. All of a sudden, we're like, oh, you think you're going to be like the Catholics? Oh, you think you're going to be rigid? Oh, this Western mind. And it's like, no, like, we don't like maybe just a little bit quieter. Like maybe take your kid out when
Well,
they're screaming.
I'll tell you how awful it is, right? And I'm speaking from personal experience. My wife, right, who has a master's in divinity from Yale Divinity School, right, was a few years ago was asked to speak at some kind of something or other, right? And then that invitation was revoked because she was told that there are going to be we call them deacons, but none of them were ordained deacons, but they're altar boys or whatever, whatever
Mhm.
we call, they're, agnostuses, which is in the line of the priesthood, supposedly. So she was not allowed to speak to them because a woman can only speak or teach to children and to other women, but she was not allowed to speak to or teach men who are in direct some kind of attenuated relationship to a priest,
Right.
which
We're
is
really
insanity.
stretching this.
But it's what because if you
Well,
take it,
that was the rule in Egypt a long time, like for a long time.
yeah, but what about women like Eva al-Masri or Edith al-Masri or whatever they're called? I forget her name.
Everything must be, yeah.
Yeah, she wrote books. How if if a woman can't teach a man, then a woman can't write any books that men may potentially read
Well,
because then she's teaching a man.
so my
Yeah.
grandma, my direct grandma, was the first female professor in the theological school in Alexandria under the direct guidance of His Holiness Pope Shenouda. And he was very proud that he made female professors teach philosophy. And they were exchanging letters back and forth. And this was in the golden, open-minded era of Pope Shenouda, like 1971 till mid 1980s, before the rise of the Islamism and stuff. So he was very proud of her and he let her teach everywhere. But where? Outside of the church, in the theological school. And that was we were raised that no, we cannot have a Tassoni come and give us a lecture. Well, we had many good Tassonis, but and Tassoni back in Egypt is not the priest wife, it's like
Right, right.
any respectable female servant.
So that was just generally accepted. Do you generally accept it now, or do you find that to be problematic?
In Natick, we accept it, but I'm sure in other churches it's not accepted.
So you accept it in your parish because that's just been the rule
No,
for
no,
as long as you
let's
can.
be
No, no,
clear.
no,
We
no.
accept that women teach and
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
regardless of what the capacity.
yeah.
okay, oh, okay. And do they?
I
In
don't think
certain
there's
meetings,
any
they're
limited
teaching.
capacity, yeah.
In not in the liturgical service yet. I'm not sure what's the direction, but in camps, in servant meeting, in pre-servants, in high school, they are teaching, and male servants, deacons, subdeacons are listening.
Okay. Well, that's great. I mean, that's a good thing. Do you think your church is different than other churches in that regard, or do you think all the churches are on the same plane?
At least for the area of New England, I think all the churches are the same.
And this is what I mean. We're not establishing a new practice. Like we're not saying like, oh, they should be allowed to do this and we're fighting. We're just declaring reality for what it is, right? It's like we're discovering gravity and we're saying, no, no, we're gonna float. Like,
Right.
no, no, like you can't float. Like either name it, call it gravity, or say, no, it's not really real. It's your misconception that there's this thing called gravity, right? But we already have a reliance, a dependence on women. So let's just name it, right? Like let's give that a name. They have
Yep.
this role. And I think, me personally, I think it should be the same, right? It's like make them a chanter, make them a reader, right? And chanters and readers aren't supposed to serve in the altar, right? We let any kid, wearing a tonia that was ordained, not ordained, blessed, not blessed, any boy can wander into the altar and serve in the altar. Okay, that shouldn't be the case. It should be subdeacons and above. They shouldn't be serving in the
Technically,
altar.
deacons and above.
No, but the subdeacon within even according to the canonical rules of the church, with the like to aid a deacon, like that's all fair game. But the role of the reader is not to serve in the altar, right?
Mhm.
Well, do you think that now that we've gone down this clear route in this discussion, which is pretty interesting, I think. And I think a lot of people are interested in this conversation. At least half the population of our churches are interested in this conversation. Do you think that this is something um that is going to stay an issue for years because we have sort of the Egypt Alexandria mindset, overarching everything else, where Bishop Agathon could, have, try to put in a veto power over other dioceses that might be smaller or weaker. Or is this something that, history is going to take care of? The future is just going to take care of it, and it's going to be a discussion that was, oh my God, we can't believe that that's what people used to say and do.
You need to give it about 20 to 30 years.
Why? So they die?
No, so we forget.
Though we forget. Okay.
A lot of things need to be forgotten. The cumulative mindset of the Copts, we need to forget some stuff. Then think, oh, wow, why we're not doing this? Yeah, let's do this, let's do that.
I do
So,
think that
for
there is
example,
sorry, go ahead.
Pope Shenouda, when he started, he promoted that prayer should be in Arabic, not in Coptic, not exclusively in Coptic, increasing the Arabic portion of the liturgical prayer. And he promoted that the sermon need to be in colloquial Arabic, not in official Arabic. Those things were not, before him, they were rare to pray in Arabic or to preach in colloquial and have some fun facts or some stories and stuff. It took him 20, 25 years. So everyone, oh yeah, well, maybe 15 years, let's put it this way, 15 years. So people are at ease. Oh, that's okay. I'm coming to a whole Arabic liturgy with very few Coptic in it.
Right, 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 right.
So the cumulative mind of the Copts need to forget what they have been doing for the previous 150 years.
Yeah, that's a good point because I remember fights, you remember probably too, Mina, where we would want English, strictly English, and it was like sort of frowned upon. No, no, it
Right,
has to be
right,
Arabic and Coptic
right.
and
Now we're like, let's do a little bit of Arabic, throw them a
yeah,
bone, it's fine.
yeah, that's right.
Well, my cousin, who was born here 50 something years ago, he used to take Arabic classes in the Coptic church,
Yeah, we used to too. Yeah.
which is totally nonsense.
Yeah, I think it is nonsense. That's right. We used to read from the Quran.
I hope not.
No, just joking. But I
Okay.
mean, if you want to learn Arabic, you got to
I
go to
mean
the Quran.
but that's really is the
Yeah,
natural
yeah,
place.
yeah,
Um,
So this
so
discussion about female deaconess or role, 20, 30 years down the road, we will not have it. But we need to allow some time for the mind to forget. And the problem is, even if the mind forget, the recordings are there, the videotapes, the audio recording, the internet. So it's easy. Oh, 50 years ago, we didn't have this rule. But Pope Shenouda has the benefit or the advantage that by year 1985, 86, nobody really remember what happened in 1965.
yeah. That's true.
But now, oh, well, there is a sermon, July 5th, 1972,
Yeah,
recorded audio and video. And then, we are stuck.
yeah, yeah. So I will say that this still doesn't answer the previous questions of, how do you know where the right balance is? Um, or who are the insiders and outsiders, who's with us and who's against us? And if anything, we've complicated matters even more, right? Say like, oh, and we have these sort of institutional ingrained things where, you know, everybody, seems to believe the same thing with the exception of a select few, and we're all on the inside and we're all saying the same thing, but we simply can't do what we amongst us feel is the right thing because of these institutional constraints. Uh, and I asked you guys, like, what have you been thinking about? Uh, and I'll tell you what I've been thinking about is that exactly what Sharif said is I hope that if we're doing things the right way today, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, we're setting up the next generation with an opportunity not for them to do things perfectly, but do them better than us. And like you said, Ralph, like like 20 years ago, like you're like, do we need to pray the whole thing in Arabic? Like maybe a little bit in English? And like, why are we praying Arabic when everybody speaks English? Like what country are we in? And that now is kind
You're
of
in
like,
Jersey,
yeah,
yeah, but only Jersey's Jersey, right? Like, thank God not everywhere is Jersey.
Brooklyn.
Sorry, Nancy. Um, so I think that setup for the future and that idea that, listen, if we're playing our cards right, we're creating a system and an infrastructure and a dialogue. And that's I mean that you guys know this is really why I do these mustache episodes, right? So someone someday, comes across this and says, "Oh, okay, yeah, there were people talking about this. There were people thinking about this, right? It wasn't like this like completely backwards time where nobody was progressive and nobody was thinking. Like, no, let's dare to ask these questions. Let's ask them in private, let's ask them in public, let's debate them. And if we do that, and if we have that dialogue and we have that structure, then at least the chances are better that they're going to be on better footing than we are. But if we just say, oh, well, what are you going to do? Like, things aren't so bad. Like, it's pretty good. Then no, we're not setting them up for anything other than just perpetuating the same generational trauma that we're experiencing.
And I think that then gives us a more sure footing in what orthodoxy is, that it is not bound by time or culture or country. I mean, it is just true orthodoxy. It is, the essentials of what we are without compromising any of that, because no one wants to compromise on the orthodoxy.
No.
What we want to bring into, sometimes I say, joking but serious. I want to bring the church, kicking and screaming into the 19th century. If we can do that, that will be a great, great accomplishment. And if we can bring it to the 20th century, and maybe one day in the 23rd century, they'll be able to bring it into the 21st century. I think that would be great. That would be just fantastic.
We got nothing but time.
We've got nothing but time, right?
So I do think that enough good things are happening that it's not just tolerable in the short term, but actually like beneficial and edifying and a very decent and good spiritual home for people that are, willing to, obviously accept some noise.
Well, there was
So,
an article. There was an article
um,
in today's New York Times that said, did you see that about how Orthodox church pews across the U.S. are overflowing with converts? That was in today's New York Times. Or
Yeah.
it's 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 a good time to be Orthodox,
yeah.
as long as we're keenly aware of what that means.
And I think as long as I mean, Phoebe Farag from New Jersey has, I think, written about this idea before that, like the sampling bias and the errors, and how we're evaluating, you know, the actual like inflow of converts to the Coptic Church is not just done in a self-congratulatory way of
Right.
like, look how great we are. You see, we're the real church. Like, we don't need to do it that way.
Right.
I think if anything, it should humble us into believing that we have an even greater responsibility to do these things, right? And it's not like a
Right.
fait accompli of like, yes, we've accomplished it, we've got the best church. It's we have a responsibility not just to each other, the people that were born and raised in the church, or Mitch, who, married into the church and, was in the car and decided to drop off altogether. But to people that are seeking a spiritual home. So I think that that's the responsibility that we have,
Well,
and
by
this.
the way, the article was talking about Eastern Orthodoxy.
Yeah, yeah, I understand. I
Yeah, but
understand.
we're the better Orthodox.
And then the them will become us.
Yes.
To round up the conversation.
All right. So we'll see you next time on another episode of I Mustache You Something, and hopefully we'll have Mitch on camera and more boisterous than he was today. He was very conciliatory today, don't you think?
It was so weird.
Yeah. Like, who is this guy?
He's driving.
I guess he didn't want to
I'll
like
get
raise
home
his blood
safe.
pressure and crash the car, so he was polite. Go figure. All right. Till next time, guys.
Bye
Yeah.
bye.
All right.